Hi and welcome to the Diamond Report for Monday, May 29th, 2017. This is your host, Doug Diamond. It's currently 10:45 p.m. and we are looking at Earthquake 3D, the last 48 hours worth of earthquakes. Currently, this is magnitude 6.5 and above because I wanted to show you the newest earthquakes. I say earthquakes, but actually it's not. It looks like two separate magnitude 6.7, 6.8 earthquakes, but actually what's going on here is that this lowest one down here, they're both showing up in Indonesia, but this lowest ring right here is a false reading that's meant to be up here. So in other words, the location is wrong of this ring. It's supposed to be up here. There was only one magnitude 6.8 quake. This one says 6.7, but it's basically a 7.0 quake. There's only one. It's this one right here. That's why it's showing multiple rings to the north here, because there's multiple agencies reporting that same quake. One of them says 6.8, one of them says 6.7, another one says 6.8, and so forth. So even though it looks like two near 7.0 earthquakes, within a few hundred miles of each other, actually it's not, it's just one. Anyway, all that to say, this is on the tail of 9 days ago. If you remember, there was a very deep magnitude 6.0 in the Philippines, right here, just north of where this near 7.0 is. So 9 days ago, on the 20th of May, right in here in the Philippines, there was a very deep magnitude 6.0 quake that happened, and at the time I said we needed to give it 10 days. I think I said 7 to 10 days. Typically it's more like 10 when you have a really large, deep quake like this one was. And it's been 9 days. I said at the time we need to give it 10 days and watch for larger, shallower movement, and that's exactly what we've seen in that time frame and in the location I mentioned, and at the magnitude I mentioned. So this is calling it a magnitude 6.8. I said 7.0 to 8.0. Hey, that's pretty close. And it was in our 10-day window on the 9th day. So it is interesting how that all transpired, but this earthquake here that you see is a result of this deep 6.0 that happened 9 days ago, just to the north in the Philippines. And also, if we zoom in here a little bit closer, you can see that this large quake near 7.0 actually happened on land. So if there were towns or villages or people around in this area, which there probably were, it's a highly populated area, it most likely really shook them up. Now, over the last 48 hours, magnitude 2.0 and greater worldwide, this is what we're looking at. The swarms continue in and around New Zealand. Got another really deep quake out here at Fiji. And again, with a large, deep quake, this one's not particularly large, but it is deep, magnitude 4.3. You can generally tack on another magnitude or two, 5.3 to 6.3, that will happen in an adjacent silent zone out here in the Western Pacific somewhere. Anywhere in here from probably western Papua New Guinea, clear across back over here to Fiji, and then down here to Vanuatu, and even this area between North New Zealand and Fiji. You could expect a 5.3 to 6.3 in this range over the next few days. 7 to 10 days. Usually 7 days or so is about right on something that is a magnitude 4.3. If you start getting up into the 6s that are really deep quakes, then you would tack on a magnitude or two, but then you need to wait more like 10 days, just like I happened to mention a minute ago with the Philippines quake from 9 days ago. And again, we've got another deep quake. I think this was on the map last night. I don't think I mentioned it, but anyway, this is another deep quake, 4.3 out here, south and east of Japan, near Guam. Again, you would tack on another magnitude or two, and then add go about 7 days out, and you'd be about right. So, and it probably will be less than 7 days when this say 5.3 to 6.3 happens, which neither one of those are really large quakes, but this deep quake is what triggers the shallow, larger movement. And as I mentioned last night, earthquakes tend to move around the planet at a relatively stable and predictable path, or pathways, I should say. Pressure transfers from one place to another, and it's relatively easy to predict or forecast where that movement's going to happen. So here's what the current activity looks like in Europe. Turn down the rings a little bit. You can see stretches all the way across from Turkey through Greece and Italy to Spain, and clear out here to the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. And that's all pretty normal as far as the progress or movement of pressure from one place to another. And of course that pressure came from the Middle East, and the Middle East pressure came from Asia, and the pressure in Asia came from Indonesia and the Western Pacific. So it just kind of all works hand in glove from one place to another. And as I mentioned also last night, the thing that throws a monkey wrench in the whole deal is if you have a tectonic weapon or a HARP situation where you're creating man-made type of earthquakes, then your best guess sort of goes out the window. But when you're talking about natural progression of pressure from one place to another, then it's a little bit easier to say what's going to happen. Now we do have some continuing earthquakes, 4s and 5s mostly, across the Aleutian Islands and into Alaska. Got a brand new 5.3 near Anchorage. So that's the newest one up there, really. Not much to report on really in the lower 48, mostly 2s and 3s. We do have a 3.0 up here in Canada, north of Maine, but that's at the tail end of that North American craton that I keep talking about. It stretches down here through southern Texas and then goes right back up here, right up the eastern seaboard, and that's all these quakes here are part of that edge of the North American craton. And we also have a brand new magnitude 5.8 in Chile. So that's also pressure that has been released from being transferred from the Western Pacific. That's usually where that pressure comes clear across the Pacific and hits South America like a wall and releases. So as you can see, Chile has a lot of earthquakes, the 5.8 being the largest, but they're constantly being hit with earthquakes. And even northern South America is as well, 2s and 3s, all throughout Ecuador and Colombia in this case. And Central America is always active as well. It's one of those areas that doesn't seem to ever really quiet off much. We've got mostly 4s and 3s there. Anyway, that's all I had for the earthquake update today, so let's move on to the headlines. Quote, "You tricked me." Trump reportedly rages at Palestine's Abbas, or Abbas, for lying to him. That's on Zero Hedge. How America could end up in an unexpected war with China. Camille Paglia, Democrats are colluding with the media to create chaos. Russia and Iran sign oil for goods barter deal to escape Petrodollar. North Korea fires missile into Sea of Japan as U.S. sends third aircraft carrier into region in warning to Kim Jong-un. Terror warning, Britain faces new wave of attacks in wake of Manchester massacre. Government finally uses power to ban ISIS jihadis from returning to Britain. Kushner engaged in false flag attack to bring down Trump. Deep state plot exposed. That's from Dave Hodges of the Common Sense Show. 3 leakers of classified White House information said to be identified, expected to be fired. I would think they would not only be fired, but charges brought against them. Manchester bombing leaks. UK caught in FBI's war to impeach Donald Trump, ex-CIA says. Donald Trump in scornful attack on North Korea over missile test threatening World War III. It's on the Express. North Korea vows to mercilessly punish America after controversial missile launch. That's also on the Express. Trainee Libyan pilot, 23, is the 16th suspect arrested in connection with Manchester concert bombing as mourners flock to St. Anne's Square to mark a week since the tragedy. That's on the Daily Mail. Defying the U.S., Pyongyang closer to creating new type of ballistic missiles. That one's on Sputnik News. Lockerbie bomber's son warns Britain will be hit by a fresh wave of attacks from ISIS terrorists in Libya. G7 nearly ceased to exist, held its most ill-fated summit. That one's on Sputnik News. All white people leave campus or else. Leftist student mob threatens violence unless demands are met. That's on shtfplan.com. Because of the brave, Trump salutes Americans who made the ultimate sacrifice as he places a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier after sending out Memorial Day tweets. Princeton professor calls Trump a racist, sexist, megalomaniac during commencement speech at Hampshire College. All stuff we've heard before. They're just a broken record, aren't they? Over and over and over again. The next stock market crash will be blamed on Donald Trump, but it will be the Federal Reserve's fault instead. That's by Michael Snyder of the Economic Collapse blog. Yes, that's part of the agreement, I think, to allow Trump to become president. He's going to take the fall. He will be president and be blamed when the stock market does crash. Of course, it will be the Fed's fault. Another article from Michael Snyder. Less government, more freedom. Boom. Newt Gingrich says, you start putting a few people in jail, you'll see the leaks dry up. It's on the Gateway Pundit. I think I just said that. On Memorial Day, Troops Need You launches new app so you can help active duty combat troops. That's on the Gateway Pundit. Jared who? Obama gave Iranian regime secret pallet of $400 million in the dead of night. That one's on Gateway Pundit as well. I remember when that happened. That wasn't all that long ago. Maxine Waters says American public is getting weary that Trump is not impeached yet. That's on Breitbart. Now I think Maxine Waters is getting weary that Trump has not been impeached yet. Same media outraged over Manchester bombing of little girls, totally silent when 100,000 U.S. children are maimed or killed by vaccines every year. That's on Natural News. Yes, but you're not supposed to notice that. Tiger Woods arrested for DUI. Once again, the march of insanity of some of these sports figures. Trump administration tailors grant to encourage local law enforcement to enforce immigration laws. That's on Daily Caller. Walmart, Costco, Kroger, Publix, and Albertsons all receive failing grades for selling meats loaded with antibiotics. That one's on Natural News. A stock market crash, a matter of when, not if. That's on investmentresearchdynamics.com. Trump is about to do something and the world is about to change. That's an X22 report. Are we fighting terrorism or creating more terrorism? That one's on Freedom Outpost. And as I just mentioned a few minutes ago, strong 6.6 magnitude earthquake hits Indonesia. Thank you, Jane. Trump gives gratitude to tearful widow of slain Army sniper and honors deceased son of General John Kelly and others who made the ultimate sacrifice in an emotional Memorial Day tribute at Arlington. I've been to Arlington before, and it is such a solemn place, and it's so beautiful. If you ever get a chance to go, do it. Bomber's cousin ranted, Manchester is my #1 enemy, and if only Hitler were alive, these Jews would be burned in chambers in anti-Semitic social media posts. He sounds like a real winner, didn't he? Bombshell, Comey admits he lied to Congress. White supremacist Portland stabber was a Bernie supporter, threatened to kill Trump supporters. That was on Information Liberation. The U.S. surveillance state unmasked. British Airways passengers face third day of disruption after weekend of flight chaos. And then Paul Martin says, chaos is all of our futures. Yes, that's true. John McCain says Putin is the premier threat and is more dangerous than ISIS. No, I think John McCain is the real threat here. Heineken campaign calls for world without borders. That's on Prison Planet. Creative chaos in the war against humanity. U.S. NATO supports ISIS. Yeah, they support them, they train them, and they finance them. Oh my God, I've got to get out of here. Fisherman's brush with death after 200-kilogram great white shark jumped into his boat and savaged him in terrifying attack. Yeah, these sharks are going to be getting more aggressive as we go because the whole food chain from the bottom up is dying all over the world. I mean, you know, the predators at the top of the food chain are starving because everything below them in the food chain is dying and going away, from the plankton to the sharks, little by little. So they're going to obviously start looking for new meals out there, which of course any humans nearby better watch out. Lawsuit exposes former Speaker of the House for the rape of a 10-year-old boy in a bathroom. That sounds like Denny Hastert at work there. They put him in that position, by the way, because they knew he was already compromised and that they could control him. That's why Dennis Hastert was the Speaker of the House. They knew they could control him because he came out of nowhere, and then all of a sudden he was the Speaker of the House. They knew they could control him with all of the blackmailable stuff that he did. And this is one of the things that's coming out now. Here's how to honor the fallen this Memorial Day by exposing the warmongering lies of government. I couldn't agree more. That's a great way to do it. One professional investor's take on Bitcoin. Impeachment just got closer, but at the expense of the people. Volcano eruption creates 35,000-foot high ash cloud in under 1 hour. That's in Alaska's Bogoslof volcano. That is in the Aleutian Island chain. And that's probably some of those magnitude 4s and 5s that we saw earlier in the earthquake update. You're losing your country, white man. Residents outraged after white supremacist group leaves propaganda posters warning, "Around blacks never relax," in a Virginia neighborhood. Looks like the coming civil war, the race war that they're trying to instigate, is definitely being ginned up more and more. Podesta laundering Clinton Foundation assets before RICO steps in under civilian asset forfeiture. That's by Dave Hodges of the Common Sense Show. This market is crazy. Hedge fund returns hundreds of millions to clients citing imminent calamity. That one's on Zero Hedge. Sweden, feminists more upset with 200-year-old statues than migrant rapists. Swedish feminists are more upset with 200-year-old statues than they are an actual rape culture their government has imported. Feminist meltdown after journalist announces he will attend women-only movie screening. Same theater chain considered plans for unisex urinals. That's on the Daily Mail. Trump returns to U.S., immediately slams fake news media on Twitter. Resist billboards appear around Sacramento. Billboard campaign to spread to other cities over the coming year. Duterte offers to hire Muslim separatists, Maoists, as soldiers to fight ISIS-linked militants. Dems say Trump talking to Russia is treason, but Obama does the same. But you're not supposed to notice that. And it's okay if Obama does it because he's one of them. See how that works? Prayer instead of medical care. Idaho woman wants her parents prosecuted. Woman angry parents denied her medical treatment as a child. Pennsylvania Republican pushing ban on private gun sales. Bill would require every sale be processed in front of an agent of the government via a background check. Doesn't sound much like a Republican to me. I think he's just a rhino. Republican in name only. New X-ray telescope to shed light on black holes and neutron stars. We still lack a thorough understanding of black holes. Well, that's because black holes only exist on paper. They've never been proven. Everyone talks about black holes and they make movies about them. But they're only theoretical. No one's ever seen one. So just remember that every time someone talks about black holes. We don't know that they even exist. Flashing red lights inside the White House trigger anti-Trump crazies. Morse code to the Russians. Of course it is. Driver plows nightclub crowd amid fear of jihadi attacks. Attack reminds tourists of recent terrorist threats. Baby boomers divorcing at stunning rate. Social engineering leads to social collapse. That's on Market Watch. Backlash, Memorial Weekend box office falls to lowest in 19 years. People are tired of globalist propaganda. It's on the Hollywood Reporter. Sri Lanka floods, death toll rises to 169 as cyclone heads for Bangladesh. Highest alert level issued after Alaskan volcano erupts. Trump says enemy fake news media doesn't want America to hear the real story. New evidence suggests Seth Rich was DNC leaker. Rich had access to leaked DNC emails, part 1 of an in-depth investigative report into Rich's murder. That's by Jerome Corsi. Report, Trump to reverse Obama's Cuba policy. That's on The Hill. The Truth About Refugees by Paul Joseph Watson. What the media will never tell you. Syria's Assad just explained how America really works. The American president has no policies. There are policies drawn by American institutions which control the American regime, which are the intelligence agencies, the Pentagon, the big arms, and oil. Chemical snowfall around Varthur Lake in Bengaluru, India after heavy rains. Sounds like the geoengineers didn't quite get their mixture correct. I think it was some sort of foam or something. Pretty weird. They are killing small business. The number of self-employed Americans is lower than it was in 1990. That's on ChristianTruther.com. Nanofiber feels forces and hears sounds made by cells. Engineers at the University of California, San Diego have developed a miniature device that's sensitive enough to feel the forces generated by swimming bacteria and hear the beating of the heart muscle. All of you Morgellon sufferers out there, you might want to take a look at this article. It's on ineffableisland.com. And if you can't find it, just send me a message on Facebook or YouTube and I'll send you the link. Video of the day, 2017 Bible prophecy on Full Throttle. And Steve says, very interesting, never knew this. Low moisture aged cheese. Hard food for the hard times ahead. That's on Survival Dan 101. Absolute must read. This is on Zero Hedge. Manchester innocence lost. Torture one day, passports the next. Must read and really ponder and pray as if your life depends on it. That's Steve's comments. Can Trump defeat the deep state? Whose side is God on? That's from Dave Hodges of the Common Sense Show. Victory. Federal Appeals Court reinstates lawsuit challenging constitutionality of the NSA's mass internet surveillance program. That's on Rutherford.org. I mentioned this a day or two ago. Yes, NSA is itself completely unconstitutional, as are the rest of the alphabet agencies. If you don't believe me, then look up the enumerated powers and you will find that nowhere in there does it detail that any sort of agency is allowed to exist, because the enumerated powers says exactly what the federal government is allowed to do, and if it's not listed there, it's unconstitutional. The NSA, the IRS, the BLM, the EPA, the alphabet agencies that are part of our government, they just set up rules and regulations, and they call them laws and make us all have to abide by them, but they themselves are totally unconstitutional. Senator John McCain is the poster boy for the nation and freedom-destroying cancer of Washington-sponsored aggression. He and his fellow war criminals are busily about preparing for their next wars. Yes, they are. That's on gatestoliberty.blogspot.com. The collapse of France, the brainwashed and insouciant French electorate has voted to abolish the French nation. That's on paulcraigroberts.org. Huge piece of the Seth Rich murder puzzle. Report, FBI memo connects Seth Rich to WikiLeaks after his murder, but before WikiLeaks leaked DNC Podesta emails. That's on All News Pipeline. And the last story for today from the Liberty Beacon. Little known, German doctor discovered the cause of cancer in 1923 and got the Nobel Prize for it. You are what you eat. In 1931, German scientist Otto Heinrich Warburg, from 1883 to 1970, received the Nobel Prize for the discovery of the basic causes of cancer. How many doctors will tell you this? Well, none of them know, most likely, and even if they did, they wouldn't tell you because that cheats them out of their chance of surgery and removing your organs and burning you with such treatments as radiation and injecting poison chemicals into you and calling it chemotherapy. We wouldn't want to deprive them of all that free money, would we? Anyway, that's all for today's Diamond Report. Thanks for listening and watching, and I will see you tomorrow.